get much more higher return. And if you have less time and more cash, in these two examples, I'd see that as someone who has much more of an opportunity to move forward or create options for themselves with real
Mhm.
estate.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
What are the that you think that corporate people we established everyone can be a good entrepreneur. They
Yeah.
have the ability to do it because it's skill based. Skill anybody can do it. So
Yeah.
what are the major challenges that you have seen in corporate people doing to become an entrepreneur, and how these challenges can be overcome?
Yeah. So, if you'll allow me, Harry, I want to unpack a couple of things because you've just said some things that really struck a core in my right. I listened to you talk about cleaning the rooms at the Hilton, and one of my very first opportunities to live overseas and work in a different culture with a different language. I worked in the IT space the very time I had an opportunity. And because I didn't speak the language well enough, right? I was very good if I was able to speak English, but I decided I wanted to learn French. I wanted to learn French language, French culture, and I wanted to have a personal growth opportunity. Unfortunately, my language skills didn't follow my life skills at that point in time. So I was
Tell me
doing,
about it.
yeah, I mean, it was I was doing order entry. So this goes back to early 2000, and I was literally the orders a day and putting them in a system that then sent them off to the logistics factory and all that kind of stuff to put them together. So I believe that number one, when you have the humility to follow a dream, to chase a dream, no matter how small or how large, it helps to set you up for the future for being resilient,
Yeah,
right?
right.
It builds major character, and it has to, especially if you've done a big job before that, and then you decide that you want to have a life experience. So that's the first thing, because I do believe that I'm
I
sure
used
that
to be software developer before in Spain,
there you
before I
go.
did that
See,
jump.
exactly. And so I'm sure that you heard from people that knew before, like, hang on a second, you had this skill, but now you're cleaning rooms,
No,
just like,
my mom
well,
was
well,
doing the wrong service. My mom was calling me. I was in, I because my mom how I was raised, right?
yep,
They want me to go to university. I got a degree, so I got a degree in chemical engineering.
yep,
And then in Spain, I didn't find a job as chemical engineering, but I was writing software, right?
yep,
Java,
yeah, yeah,
Oracle, these kind of things.
yeah, yeah,
So in
yeah,
Spain,
yeah,
and then I decided, okay, that's it. I'm going to London. I want to learn English. Same
yep,
story like you want, but then I have to start from the bottom. And my
yep,
mom was freaking out. She was
yeah,
telling
yeah.
me, "What are you doing there? Doing room service in a Hilton and the tables
All
and
this
so on?
education,
And you crazy?
yeah,
Come back!" And she was telling everybody. She was very mad at me. I said,
yeah,
come back to Spain. Why are you doing that in London?" So,
yeah.
yeah, I get, yeah.
And so that's the first part, right? And it's just to have that humility. You also talked about something else, and so I like to think a lot about languages, right? Because as someone originally from Columbus, Ohio, I've been very fortunate. I've put myself in situations to learn more languages. Living overseas for 24 years, I've been fortunate to work and travel throughout some 80 different countries, and so I always think about whenever I'm learning a language, right? And I've been fortunate to learn Spanish and French and Italian and Catalan, which is a language that they speak here locally. But you said something earlier. There is a big difference between understanding the theory of a language and being able to speak fluently in a language, right? And so it's whenever you want to learn a skill, and you talked about entrepreneurship, so we're going to bring it back there. Originally, I learned all of structure when I wanted to learn French, and I learned all the structure when I wanted to learn Spanish. And so as I started to learn the languages, I understood the structure, I had the vocabulary, and theoretically I was very, very good. But there was a big difference between knowing the theory and actually being able to order something on the street when I was by myself. And so what you have to realize, and this comes back to the humility that you and I were just talking about, is it's okay to not be fluent in the beginning. What's not okay is to have a desire to become fluent and have the theory, but not do the work and feel uncomfortable to make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, can begin to build your fluency. And we're talking about entrepreneurship. And so one of the things that you can also do that you talked about, Harry, which I also, that I'm in this role, it may sound a bit self-serving, but you can make the mistakes, and you can make the mistakes in a way that feel you don't have to pay full price for the mistakes, especially if you can find someone who's gone down the path that you're already looking to go down. You can learn from their mistakes. You have an exchange. You pay that person to help guide you through, and you still need to some mistakes, but just don't make the ones that are going to be the fatal types of mistakes. Which then brings us back to what you were talking about before, right? The challenges, some of the different challenges that you can have. And so if you think about having the humility to be able to go outside of comfort zone, to do something that's different, having the consistent actions of being able to learn the theory, and then also not being fully afraid to test the theory so that you can start to build up your expertise. Well, as you do that, especially if you've been in a corporate role, like I was in corporate for almost 3 decades, it's really easy for you to fall into the comfort trap, to say, hey, listen, I actually know all of this already. I have this expertise, and to not move outside of that, especially when you want to follow that dream of fluency, like I was talking about before. Maybe your dream is fluency, and we'll use that as an analogy for following your entrepreneurial dream. Well, you have to come outside of your comfort zone. You have to begin to get the theory, what it is that you want to do. Harry, you and I, we both had experience in real rental properties. There are many people, and I've many different types of in alternative investments. And also, one of the things that you could do, especially when you are someone who has a specific expertise in your corporate role, look, analyze what that is. What skill that you have? What is it that makes you unique, so that you don't have to compete against every single other person that has a very similar skill? Because when you are able to attract your client, you have the brand that brings them forward, and you're able to share a skill that you have developed in your corporate role for over 2 decades. Well, then you become the only option in the marketplace that can help to teach someone else that skill. Does it happen overnight? Does it happen perfectly? Usually no and no. However, it does happen. You just have to be consistent, which is the 5th C that we talked about in the very beginning. So let me stop there. Just make sure that I'm answering the question that you asked, or see if you have any other questions.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 out of 5 entrepreneurs that we interviewed, we're interviewed with 500 millionaires, and 1 out of 5 are property millionaires, property investors, and 1 out of 5 are tech multimillionaires. So, which illustrates the statistic of this podcast, that tech and property could be a very good vehicle to create wealth. However, one message why do you think that that we have this statistic in this podcast? Why do you think that 1 out of 5 millionaires that they come here, they are either property investors or tech entrepreneurs? Message do you have specifically for the people in tech and corporate doing the transition to start the tech business? Because like I said, the tech entrepreneurs in corporate, they make a lot of money. And then when they go into a startup, they're thinking that they're in a corporate, and they're thinking that that you need to hire this and hire this for that. And hey, this is a tech startup, you need an MVP. So tell us about the vehicles. What's your opinion about the property and the tech vehicles in terms to build wealth? And tell us also, for example, to people doing transition from corporate, maybe they can start to invest in property or something that is more easy to everybody to understand. What is your view? Because you're the expert of this, so picking up your brain.
So there are things that come to mind, right? And it also, when it relates to tech, it depends on what are tech? Are you providing a service around an already existing software? Are you developing a software that has a very specific niche? So those are very different, I would say, profiles. But at the end of the day, both of them are extremely time intensive, right? Because they just require time in order for you to develop either a software product, or creating a software, because you're going to need to implement that and derive some type of value. And so unless you have lots of time, and very few corporate executives who are earning over $200,000 a year have a lot of excess time. There are different areas of tech that you can play for sure. But if you don't have a lot of time, what I would say, or so if you have less time, you should find models that will allow you to get quick wins with the amount of time that you have. And I think that's where, I know this is where one of the most powerful assets that you can become involved in are alternative assets, specifically real estate, rental real estate. Reason for that is when you're looking at many of the profiles that are in IT. I work with a lot of people that are in software specifically, right? Because software and hardware in high. However, those individuals, those leaders, those execs, they tend to have excess capital that is available. And if they can get a rate of return from an asset that they are building ownership in, and whether that is a low level of ownership or a high level of ownership, I mean, you can do limited partnerships. You may own as little as 2%, or if you own an entire asset, 100%. We don't have to be too technical there, but that is really about taking an asset that you have, which is cash, and making that cash create a higher return than it's doing just sitting in the bank, basically. And those, you don't need as much time. However, you do need time to go through your due diligence, understand what you're investing in, understand either you're going to manage it yourself, you're going to have someone else manage it. So I see those as two different types of, it's leveraging the asset that you have the most. One is when you have lots of time, high tech, and I know it's a higher, get much more higher return. And if you have less time and more cash, in these two examples, I'd see that as someone who has much more of an opportunity to move forward or create options for themselves with real estate.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.